Welcome to Animaker Tips. In this episode, I'm going to show you how to turn a basic bar graph word problem into a very fun and engaging video. Now you're going to need three things. You're going to need a computer. You'll need to get your very own Animaker account. And the third and most important thing is to go to my site, animakertips.com, to download the bar graph animation pack. I've included the link in the description. So when you click on the description, you'll be taken to my blog article. Scroll down a little bit and you'll see the bar graph animation pack section. Click the download button. When you download it, you're going to get a zipped file. Unzip the file, and when you do, you're going to find two folders. If you click on the image folder, you'll see the images that we're going to use for this video. And then if you go back and click the audio folder, you'll see the audio files that we're going to use for this episode as well. Once you have these things, you can now go to animaker.com. When you reach the site animaker.com, you'll see a big sign up button on the top right side of the screen. You'll need to click on that button. When you do, you're going to add your name, your email, and a password for your account. Once you've done all of that, you'll now need to click sign up. After logging into your account, you're going to see a big get started button. I'll need you to click on it. And when you do, you'll see many templates that we can use for this project. Now, since we want to do this from scratch, I'll need you to click the blank template, which is this one over here. Alright, now that we've set up the project, let's go over the word problem that we're going to solve for this episode. Now it asks, which car company sold the most cars in 2016? Now, if you look at the blue box, you have three options. You can see that Dodge sold 50 million cars. You can see that Volkswagen sold 37 million cars and Audi sold 80 million cars. Now, you obviously know the correct answer is Audi. The reason why I wanted to start off the episode like this is so you have a good understanding of the word problem that we're trying to solve. And now that you do, let's start off this project with scene 1. Now we're starting off scene 1 with the images and the sound effects from the Animaker bar graph animation pack. So if you're watching this video right now and you haven't downloaded the pack, you need to pause this video, go and download the pack, and then come back. Because in order to finish this tutorial successfully, you need to download the animation pack. Alright, so just go and download it. Now, we're going to start off with uploading the images or importing the images into Animaker. So you'll need to click on the import icon. When you do, you'll need to click this upload button. Now, you're going to have to go and find out where you downloaded your bar graph animation pack. When you find it, you'll need to open the image folder. And when you do, you'll find three images. Now we're going to start off with uploading this image over here. So click on it, click open, and then you'll see it's been put in the Animaker software. Now we need to place this image in a category. So click this button over here and you'll see that Animaker provides three categories: characters, properties, and background. We're going to put this image in the properties section. Now the reason why I did this is because whenever you place an image in the properties section, you'll be able to resize it. Since this is a car image that I know I'm going to resize during this tutorial, I wanted to put it in the properties section. So we're going to repeat the same process again for the second image. So click upload, click on the second image, click open, and make sure it goes in the properties category. Now the last image is the car background. Now the steps to doing this will be a little bit different. So you'll need to first click this button, then click on the image and make sure it goes into the Animaker system. However, this time we want to place this car background in the background category. The reason why I'm doing this is because whenever you place an image in the background category, you will not be able to resize it at all, which is perfect for this image because I'm going to be placing a lot of elements above the actual background. So I don't want it to keep being messed around with or me having to change or resize it in any way. The next step is to obviously add the sound effect to this project. All you have to do is to click the import button, and then I'll need you to click the sound effect section. You need to do this if you want to add the audio effects into your project. Now, once you've done that, you click the upload button, and we're going to import the first audio effect, which is the car approaching sound effect. So click on the sound effect, let it upload to the project, and then place it in the sound effects category. Now we're going to repeat the same process for the second audio effect. So click the upload button, click on the drum roll sound effect, import it to Animaker, and then place it in the sound effects category. Now the next thing that I did is I made sure to change the time duration for this scene from about 10 seconds to 15 seconds. Now I did this because I knew that scene 1 will need to be a little bit longer than usual. So I did this by going down to where you see scene 1 over here, and I pressed on the plus button until it hit 15 seconds. After doing this, I then clicked on the import button. Now I'm going to click on the import button, and then when I do this, you'll see we're still in the sound section. Now obviously we need to add a background to this image, so you'll need to click the image section, and then you'll need to scroll down where you see the background category. Now you'll need to double click on the actual image you just uploaded, the car background image. Double click on it and it will appear on the screen. Now I'm going to put this import section off to the side a little bit so I can explain to you the animation that I have in mind. So in scene 1, what I basically want to do is to take the 3 car images that I uploaded into Animaker. I want to animate them in a way that they can come, so that way they can come towards the screen. So they're going to start off small, and then as time keeps going on, they'll drive themselves towards the screen, and then they'll stop. That's basically the animation, and then after that, I'll introduce the word problem to the students. Now that you have a good idea of what you're going to be animating in scene 1, we're going to have to definitely add the sound effect for this scene. Now to do this, we're going to go to the timeline and we're going to click the musical note. When you do this, you'll be put into the sound layer. Now this layer is important because you'll be able to import any sound effect that you want into Animaker using the actual sound layer. Now click on import and you'll see you're still on the image section. Click on the sound effects section, and then you're going to have to drag the car approaching sound effect into the timeline. So take it and drag it into the timeline. Now we're going to make sure that we drag it all the way at the beginning of this timeline. Now the way this is going to work is we're going to preview the sound effect so that way we can get used to the way it sounds and we'll be able to figure out exactly how to animate the cars. So click the yellow button. Now before I play this video, I want you to pay really close attention to the audio track, okay? Now you've already clicked the preview button. Now listen to the sound. If you notice, the sound happened at around the 6-second marker. That's when you hear that screeching sound really become very loud. So If you didn't notice that, I'm going to play it one more time, but this time I will make sure to add an arrow so you can be able to focus on that 6-second marker. Now you heard it around 6 seconds. Now the principle when it comes to animating something is this. The image will always appear before the sound. So from my animation experience, I've learned that if I was to animate like a hand clap, I would animate the actual hand clap first, then wait a few seconds before I add the sound. By doing this, it will appear more natural, because if you decided to make sure you animate directly on the sound, trust me, it'll feel kind of unnatural and people will kind of feel like it's kind of off. So that's just a simple tip to make sure that your syncing will be very nice. So now that we have the idea that the actual screeching sound happens at 6 seconds, the goal now is to make sure that the cars will appear a second before at around 5 seconds. Now what you're going to do is you're going to click on the smiling icon in the timeline. When you do that, I'll need you to double click the 5-second marker. Now when you do this, you'll notice that the player head will move from 0 seconds to 5 seconds. The reason why I'm doing this is because I want the actual picture to appear at around this area instead of at the beginning of this scene. So that's basically why I always double click first before I add anything. Now, once this is done, I will need to go and click the import button, go to the image section, and then go to the properties category and double click the image that has the 3 cars. When I did this, the image appeared on the scene. Now, it was slightly kind of big, so I resized the image. Now, I decided to slightly drop the image towards the bottom of the screen just a little bit because I'm going to be putting the text literally above the cars. So that's why I decided to move the cars down just a little bit. Now, the next step obviously is to add the pop-up effect. Remember, we're animating the cars to be driving towards the screen, and the pop-up effect is the perfect effect to use in order to achieve this goal. So what you're going to need to do is to click the gear icon. Then you're going to have to click the no effect button and scroll down until you see pop up. Once you find it, you'll need to click on it. Now, when you find the pop-up effect and you click on it, you'll see that there'll be 2 colors in the timeline, the orange bar and the yellow bar. The orange bar represents the actual pop-up effect, while the yellow bar represents the part of the scene that doesn't have an effect at all. Now, what I want to do is I want to extend the orange bar from 5.5 seconds to 8.5 seconds. I also wanted to add an ending effect to the actual cars, so what I did is I double clicked the 13.5 second marker. You'll notice that it moved the player head to 13.5 seconds, and then I clicked on the red no effect button. I scrolled down until I found the exit to bottom effect. Now when I clicked on it, it appeared on the timeline towards the end of the scene. Now, if you look at the timeline, you'll see that the effect is from 14 seconds to 15 seconds. So what I decided to do is I decided to extend the orange bar backwards towards 13.5 seconds. Now, once you've done that, you've basically done the car animation for this scene. The next step is to add the text for scene 1. Now I'm going to double click the 8.5 second marker. I'm doing this because I want the text to appear right after the sound effect of the car approaching ends. I know that the sound effect is about 7 seconds, so by placing the text at around 8.5 seconds, I'll give the students enough time to enjoy the animation before I show them the word problem. Now, after clicking the 8.5 second marker, the player head will move to obviously 8.5 seconds. And at this moment in time, you will need to click the properties icon. Now, when you click the properties icon, you'll need to type the word shapes. You'll see a variety of shapes, but I'll need you to click this square shape right here. Now, after the square appears on your project, you will need to resize it to look like a very long rectangle. So whenever you're doing this, just make sure that your rectangle looks like this. After it looks like this, then you're going to move the rectangle above the cars to about this area. Now, I wanted to change the color from this blue color to a red color, so I clicked on the color palette, which is this one. But when I did it, it didn't have any color options. So I decided to click on the expression tab, which is right over here. So I could pick a variety of squares that have different colors. I decided to go with this red square. Now, I wanted to add a nice effect to this square. So I clicked on the effect tool. I clicked on the no effect tab, and then I scrolled down and I clicked on the wipe effect. Now, if you look at the timeline, you'll see that the effect starts from 8.5 seconds to 9.5 seconds. What I decided to do is to bump it up just a little bit by bumping it up to about 10 seconds. Now that we have our rectangle all set out, we now can finally add the actual text to this scene. Now you notice that it started at 8.5 seconds. Now I want the text to appear at around 9 seconds. So I double click the 9-second marker and then I clicked on the T button. When you click on this button, you'll be able to add the actual written word on this animated video. So you'll see many texts that you can use. But for this episode, I want you to click the type your text here icon. Now, when it appears on your scene, I need you to click the pencil button and then edit the sentence to which car company sold the most cars in 2016. Now, when you're finished writing the sentence, all you need to do is just to drag it up and resize it in a way where you fit the sentence inside the rectangle. Now, I want to change this color of the text from black to white. I'm doing this because I want the white colored text to really jump out when it's placed against the red rectangle. So to change the color, all you need to do is to double click the entire word and everything should be highlighted. Once the sentence is highlighted, you'll need to click this black square and then you can click this white square over here. That will change the color from black to white. Now, after it's done, I'll need to add an effect to this text. So I'll need to click the effect tool and then click this green no effect tab, scroll down and click the move button. Now, if you look at the actual timeline, you'll see that the orange effect is from 9 seconds to 10 seconds. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bump it up just a little bit to about 10.5 seconds. Now after doing this, we're now ready to preview scene 1. So all you need to do is to click this yellow button over here. Now, as we're watching the video, you can hear the cars are approaching towards the screen. And then you'll see the cars appear right before you hear that screeching sound intensify at around 6 seconds. So I'm going to pause it right now. And that's what I was saying. Having the car appear before the sound makes it look very natural. Now, as we continue watching the video, you'll see that the rectangle will appear before the words. I did this because it looked kind of cool. I wish there was like a super advanced reason for it, but it does look nice and looked very appealing, looks professional. That's why I did it in that manner. Now that we've done watching scene 1, let's go on to scene 2. To create scene 2, what you'll need to do is to click the scene button, which is over here. Then I'll need you to change the time duration from 10 seconds to 15 seconds. So go down to your timeline, press that plus button until it hits 15. Now I want to change this white background color to a light green. I'll need you to click on the background icon, which is over here, and then I'll need you to select the shade of green. Now, in order to add a bar graph into this scene, I'll need you to go and click where you see the 2D character. Click on that tab, and you'll see you have 3 options: 2D, infographics, and handcraft. I'll need you to click on infographics. After doing this, you'll need to click on this infographics tab right here. Now, if you look at the options that you have, you will see a bar graph chart. This one in particular, this is the one that we're going to use for this episode. So I'll need you to click on it. Now, if you look at the bar graph, you'll see it starts from 0 seconds to 15 seconds. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the duration a little bit. So I'm going to start off at the beginning, and then I'm going to drag it from 0 seconds to 1 second. Then I'm going to go all the way to the back, grab the handle and move it from 15 seconds to 13 seconds. Now, if you look at this timeline, you'll know that this bar graph already has some effects because it has 2 orange colors. So I'll need you to click on the effect tool to see the effects that were used for this bar graph. Now we have the appear and the disappear effect. I've already previewed these effects before, and I think they're very nice. So the only thing that I'm going to fix is to change the duration of the appear effect. You can see it lasts from about 1 second to 2 seconds. Well, I'm going to change that by bumping it up to about 4.5 seconds. After I did this, I realized that this bar graph was missing a y-axis and some grids. To fix that, all I did was I clicked on the wrench button over here. When you look down, you'll see many options that you can add for the bar graph. You'll just need to make sure you turn on the y-axis, and you'll need to make sure you turn on the grids. The next thing to do is to add the data into this bar graph. So you'll need to click the data icon, and then you're going to see 2 categories, 2 axes. You're going to see the x-axis has data 1, data 2, data 3, and the y-axis has the 10, 20, 30, 40, and so on. Now what you're going to do is you're going to double click data 1 and change it to Dodge. Now I'll need you to change this number to 50. Now when you go to data 2, change it to Volkswagen. Then make sure that the number says 37 over here. Then for the last row, you're going to change it to Audi. And then you're going to now change this number to 80. Now if you look at the data, you'll see you have data 4 and data 5. But you really don't need it for this graph. So I'll need you to click on data 4, and then you'll need to click delete row. You're going to do the same exact thing also for data 5. Now if you look at the graph right now, you should only have 3 categories: Dodge, Volkswagen, and Audi. Now if you look at the Audi bar graph color, it's gray, and I think that's kind of boring. So I decided to double click on the square right next to it, and I changed it to orange. After doing this, I resized the bar graph and I placed it on the left side of this scene. The next step is to add a title to the bar graph. Now, to add a text to this scene, all you need to do is to click the T button. And when I did this, I clicked on the type your text here icon. Now, if you look at my timeline, I decided to double click the 1.5 second marker. I did this because I want to be able to see the bar graph beforehand, because I will need to change this to the actual title, which will be Millions of Cars Sold in 2016. But I need to make sure it's above the actual bar graph. So that's why I double clicked on the 1.5 second marker. Now, when I did this, I moved the text up, and I obviously clicked the pencil button and changed it to Millions of Cars Sold in 2016. Now you will see that the color is black, and I wanted to change it to a blue color. So I double clicked on the word, and then I clicked on this square and I changed it to a blue color. I decided to change the duration of the actual text to be 10 seconds. So you'll see right now it's at 15 seconds. Well, I decided to drop it down to about 10 seconds. I did this because I don't want the whole text to be lasting the whole entire scene. Now, after that is done, it's time to add a character to this scene. So the next step is to add a character to this scene. So you'll need to click this tab over here, and we need to go back to the 2D characters section. Once you've done that, you'll need to click the character icon, and then you'll see many characters provided by Animaker. The character that we're going to use for this project will be this boy over here. He's wearing the green shirt. Now, after doing this, I need to change this character to have a thinking pose, because I want to communicate to the students that this is the time they should be thinking about what is the correct answer to this problem. Now, when you look at it, you'll see several different poses. You'll need to scroll down until you see him in a nice thinking pose. Once you find it, you'll need to click on it. Now, when the character appears on the scene, it'll be kind of small, so I'll need you to move him to the right side of the scene, and then you'll need to resize him. Now, the good thing about Animaker is you can be able to switch the angle of any pose. So you can see this is a thinking pose, right? All you'll need to do is just to click this expression tab over here, and you'll see the character in its front thinking pose, but you can also see it in the third quarter thinking pose. I personally chose the third quarter thinking pose because I want the character to be facing the bar graph. Right now you might be wondering, I don't see the bar graph. That's because the bar graph is at the 1.5 second marker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click 1.5 seconds, and when I do that, you'll be able to see the bar graph. Now the next step is to actually change the duration of this character from 15 seconds to about 12 seconds. So if you look at your timeline, you'll see it's at 15 right now. I'll need you to move the needle all the way back to 12 seconds. Now, after doing this, I'm going to add two effects to this character. I'm going to add a 2.5D at the beginning and a fade out at the end. So to add this effect, you'll need to click the Effect tool. You're going to have to click on this No Effects button. Scroll down until you see 2.5D effect. When you find it, you'll need to click on it. Now you will see the orange bar will appear in the timeline. It will last from 0 seconds to 1 second. I'll need you to change it to 2 seconds. So drag it all the way to 2 seconds. Now to add the fade out effect, you'll need to first double click the 10.5 second marker. The reason why I want to do this is I want this effect to happen around this area instead of the beginning of the timeline. Now, in order to add the fade out effect, you obviously need to be in the Effects tool tab. Click on this red No Effects button. Scroll down until you see Fade Out. Now, if you look at the timeline, you'll see the orange bar itself is from 11 seconds to 12 seconds. Now, what I'll need you to do is to extend it back all the way to 10.5 seconds. After adding all the effects to the character, it is now time to preview the scene. So you'll need to click on this yellow button, and when you do, you will see that the character will start to come up. We're using that 2.5D effect. It starts off flat, but then starts to rise up, which is pretty cool. You'll also notice for the bar graph, it'll start off pretty small and then everything will start to increase. The bar graph chart itself will start to increase. You'll see the actual bar moving up. Then you'll also notice that the text will just appear after a while at the beginning of the video. Now towards the end, everything will start to fade out. The character will fade out, the text will fade out, and the bar graph also will start to fade out. Now that we're finished with scene 2, it's time to finish scene 3. You'll need to click the new scene button. Then you're going to have to go to your timeline and change it from 10 seconds to 12 seconds. Now I want to add the car background image to this scene. So I'll need you to click the import button, which is this one. Then go to your background category. When you find the car background, you'll need to click on it. Now, before we continue with scene 3, I just wanted to let you know that the way scene 3 will work is we're going to reveal to the class that the correct answer is Audi. Now, we're going to start off the scene by hearing the drum roll sound effect. You'll hear it go something like this, like brrrr. Then, after a while, you'll see the Audi car drive towards the screen. And then after you see that, you'll hear the sound, ta-da! That will let the students know that the correct answer is Audi. All right, now that you have a good idea of what you're going to be animating, let's get back to creating scene 3. Now the first step is to obviously add a sound effect to this scene. I'll need you to go to your timeline and then click on this button over here. This is the Animaker sound layer. Once you're in this layer, you can add any sound that you want. So you'll need to click the import button, then go to the sound section, and then you're going to drag this sound effect into your timeline. The sound effect will be called the drum roll sound effect. So drag it into your timeline and place it at 30.5 seconds. I did this on purpose because if you go to scene 1, you'll see it's 15 seconds. And then if you go to scene 2, you'll see it's also 15 seconds. Because I didn't want my sound effect to happen at around like 30 seconds, I wanted to just delay just a little bit at 30.5 so that way it's not too intrusive. So that way you can be able to transition very nicely to this scene. It's an artistic choice, but I'm pretty sure you're going to like it. Now that we've moved the sound effect into the sound layer, it's time to preview the sound effect. Now, in the beginning of this tutorial, I'm pretty sure you remember what I said, that you always need to make sure that the image goes before the sound. Now, as you're going to be listening to it, pay attention to where you hear the clanging cymbal. That's going to be very important because we want the car to appear right before that sound, so that way it'll look very natural. All right? Now, I'll need you to click the preview button. Now, as you're listening to the track, you can hear the sound of the drum roll. And then at the 5-second marker, you'll hear the clanging cymbal. Now that we know that the clanging cymbal is going to happen at the 5-second marker, I need to make sure that the car appears at around 4.5 seconds because you always make sure that the image precedes before the sound effect. Very, very important. That is the most important lesson from this tutorial, okay? Now the next step is to add the Audi car to this image. So remember when I said that the clanging cymbal happens at around 5 seconds? We want to make sure that the car comes before that at around 4.5 seconds. So I double click the 4.5 second marker. After doing this, I then clicked on the import icon. I went to the properties section and I looked around until I saw this Audi image. When I found it, I clicked on it. Now, after I clicked the image, it appeared in the scene. It was a little big, so I decided to resize it down, and then I placed it a little bit towards the bottom of the scene. Now, I want to use the same pop-up effect that I used in scene 1. So what I'm going to do is to click on this gear icon, then click on this No Effects tab, scroll down until you see Pop Up. When you find it, you'll need to click on it. Now, if you look at the timeline, you'll see that the pop-up effect is from 4.5 seconds to 5 seconds. Now, what I want you to do is to extend that orange bar all the way to 6.5 seconds. The next step is to add a text to this scene. So you'll need to click on the 0-second marker, which is over here. Then you'll need to click the T button, which is right here. When you see this text open up, you'll see the Type Your Text Here icon. You will need to click on it. Now, I want you to change the wording to "the correct answer is." To do this, all you'll need to do is to click this button over here and type the word "the correct answer is." Now, I'm going to change this color from black to red. To do it, you'll need to double click on the word, make sure that every word is highlighted, and then you'll click on this square, and then you'll need to click on this red color. Now, I double clicked on the 5-second marker because I wanted to see the title and the car at the same time. This will make it easier for me to get an idea of how the scene will look like after the car has approached the scene. Now the next step is to finally add some screen effects to this scene. I decided I wanted scene 3 to fade out. Now, in order to achieve this effect, you will need to first double click on the 11-second marker. That will move the player head to the 11-second area because I want this screen effect to happen around here instead of at the beginning of this scene. After doing this, you'll need to click the screen effect button, which is over here. Now, when you click on it, you'll see many screen effects that you can use in your presentations. But for this tutorial, I'll need you to scroll down and click this fade out screen effect. Now, since you've added the fade out screen effect, you're almost done with the video. All you'll need to do right now is to add some slide transitions to your video. I personally like adding slide transitions because it makes the video more interesting. Instead of just going to a static scene every time, you can have a scene move to the left or to the right, up or down. It just adds more flavor to your teaching presentation. Now, to do this, you'll need to click on this button over here. You'll now see the slide transition tab appear on your screen. Now, between scene 1 and scene 2, I decided to use a slide left transition. And then between scene 2 and 3, I decided to add a slide bottom transition. Now that we've done everything that we need to do for this tutorial, I want you to first preview scene 3. So you'll need to click this yellow button over here. Now, as you preview scene 3, you can hear the drum roll sound effect. Now, if you pay attention, you'll hear the clanging cymbal happen at about 5 seconds. This is why I purposely made sure to make sure the car appears at 4.5 seconds, because when I did this, the result is it looks more natural and believable. The syncing looks very nice. Then towards the end, it'll quickly start to fade out. Now that we're finished previewing scene 3, I want you to click this button over here to preview the whole video in its entirety. Now that you're finished creating your tutorial video, you'll need to export it to YouTube. To do this, you'll need to click the gear icon, which is over here. Make sure you save your project. Then after you're done, you're going to have to click the next button. Now you'll need to add your title, description, and tags. Once you're done, you'll need to click this button over here. Now, it usually takes 30 to 45 minutes for an Animaker video to process, so you just be patient, wait about 30 minutes, and then you'll need to go and check out your YouTube channel to see how the video turned out. Now that it has been more than 30 minutes, I'm going to go to my YouTube channel. I'm going to go click on this button, click on Creator Studio, and there is the video right there. So just click the edit button, and then there'll be a little player window that you can press to see how the video turned out. So just click on it. Now that you've watched the video, you can obviously see that it works perfectly on YouTube. It's now time to wrap up the episode. If this is your first time on Animaker Tips, then you definitely need to subscribe to this channel. Why? Because I'll show you how to turn your lessons into fun and engaging videos that will capture the attention of your students. So yeah, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next week with another Animaker Tips tutorial.